You are listening to Shameless Stories, and I'm Nicola Humber, founder of the Unbound Press, soul-led publishing company for magical women writing world-changing books. And we are delighted to be the sponsor of this podcast. So enjoy, magical one.
Welcome to another episode of Shameless Stories. This is season 2. And we are going to be welcoming some amazing guests over the next few weeks. I have journalists, I have entrepreneurs, I have experts in their field, I have deeply spiritual business owners joining me on the show. But today I'm taking the mic. Shameless Stories was set up back in January 2025, and it was following something that I'd happened. Basically, I'd had a year where I'd burnt shit to the ground. I'd burnt my business to the ground, and I had let everything go. I know this now, but looking back, the astrology was telling me that that's what needed to happen. But also, I'd had some personal stuff come up. My mum got very ill, and I decided it would be a great idea to put my business to one side and focus on helping her get well. And obviously I'm a parent. If you're listening, I have kids, I have a husband, I have a mum. I'm also nosediving into perimenopause, menopause. So all of this kind of cataclysmic event happened at the same time. What also had happened at that point was I had received an unofficial diagnosis of ADHD. And the last few months, I've been exploring autism as well. And there's this whole feeling, and I think it's deep seated into why I'm doing this podcast. It's about really owning who we truly are and understanding what our purpose is and how we are showing up in the world and how we are being visible. And why am I sharing that? Well, as you know, Generation X, we're here to basically fuck shit up, I think. And that was always written in the stars, the indigo intake onto planet Earth. Whatever you believe in, we're here to change systems, break systems, challenge systems. And our children are also doing the same thing. And the reason why I'm coming on to kind of share with you my story and talk about why Shameless Stories is kind of evolving and has come to be. It's the more I work in this space, the more I work with clients in my PR business and help the women, mainly women, to step out and be seen for who they truly are. It's a truly transformational experience when somebody is finally aligning with a story that they've hidden or a story that is true, but they haven't shared or owned. It is such a powerful place to be. And I always talk about this when I work with my PR clients around kind of having this alchemical situation when it comes to our stories. Because often when we're living the story or living that moment, we can't really see it for what it is. The magic really happens when we take that time to kind of step back and look at past behaviors, past moments in time. I call them the sliding door moments. So often I'll speak to clients about what the moments in time were that really made an impact in their life, that made them choose to take a different path, to stop following the path of the good girl, for example, and stepping onto the path of the disruptor, the challenger, the fuck shit upper. That's a word in Scrabble. So, I mean, when I'm working with clients, we're talking about sliding doors. And my sliding door moments were always around my corporate work, where I left my corporate role and was made redundant and effectively was given a sign by a guy in a helicopter who had changed his stars. And that's what I hope to do with this podcast. I hope to give listeners an opportunity to change things for the better. It might be that you listen along and you're nodding and you're agreeing with whatever's being shared by my guest or by myself. And that's great because perhaps you're in alignment with what we're sharing. But it might be that one of the listeners or one or two listeners might stumble on something that really inspires them to take action. And I'm really excited because someone did actually feed back to me. They had listened to one of our episodes and had made some changes around, writing their book that they were always putting off, or changing their job because they were always putting it off. What it is this shame piece. It does actually stop us from becoming who we truly are meant to be. Shame is one of the lowest vibrations that you can have. If you are into energy work, you can just Google it and you'll find that the lowest vibration is death, then it's shame, and then it goes further up. And obviously on the other side of that frequency is freedom, is joy, is happiness. And I always wondered what joy and happiness really was. I was lucky enough as a child to be shipped off to after school clubs. So I didn't really feel the shame until I got to a little bit older. And by that point, I think that's when it really was quite rife. I mean, nothing bad has ever happened to me, but I do feel the pain and that shame can feel, or that shame does bring to people, especially if you are a bit like me. And I'm realizing this, that I have this tendency to take something and ruminate on it for, it used to be months and months and months, but thankfully it doesn't do that for very long. I often now just have a late night where I'm ruminating and thinking, overthinking things and spiraling. And I often bring myself back into alignment, into grounding through doing something that's, washing up or walking to school, whatever. Anyway, I'm kind of going into too much here, but I just wanted to share with you the reasons why Shameless Stories has come about. Why why now? Because I feel the more people that I work with in the PR sense are women of a certain age or in their midlife. And often we get to a point in midlife where we don't want to stand for it anymore. We don't want to hide away anymore. We just haven't got the patience. We just don't want, we just don't, we want to be taken seriously. We don't want to subscribe to some of the conditioning that we've been carrying around for years and years and years. And, it does get lumped on through the years, at school, from parents, from teachers, from friends, from school, and it goes around and around and around. Partners. There are always there are people around us that have a part to play in this journey. And what I'm finding is, as I'm getting older and I'm moving through all of this, is I'm actually removing and discarding the old stories, the old shames, and realizing that actually none of it's true. It's, there is this whole feeling that there are things that have happened to me that gave me the sliding door moments that I can share. The pilot, for example, I was sitting with a decision as to whether to stay in the well-paid job but move sideways, or leave and take voluntary redundancy. And this was quite a big turning point for me 7-8 years ago. And I was sitting in a helicopter with a pilot who looked of a certain age, and I'd made massive assumptions. I thought he'd been flying helicopters for a long time. Turns out he hadn't. We were going into the Grand Canyon at this point. He was saying to me, I bet you think I've been flying all my life. I was like, yeah, I hope so, because we're in the canyon now. And he was like, well, actually, I used to work in IT, and it wasn't until my 40s that something happened. A helicopter landed in front of my office, and I decided to change my stars there. And then I decided to take that leap of faith. I decided to then start learning how to be a pilot. And he said it took a few years, and I built up my hours, and I got my pilot's license. And now today, like 10 years on, I'm living the dream. I'm flying a helicopter into the Grand Canyon. And I guess I took away quite a few truths away from that conversation. Is that one, you're never too old to change your styles. You're never too old to rethink life. Sorry, the phone just rang. Number two, it's never too old. You're never too old to change your story. You don't have to be defined by what you have done. You can choose to be defined by who you are. In addition to that, the thing that really stops us from doing anything is actually, it's not the fear of doing anything new. It's actually being ready to make the decision. Because once we've made the decision to take the leap of faith, then we're completely supported and it normally goes to plan. It's always the fear of the decision as opposed to the fear of taking the leap. So, being ready, it's always a choice. It's always a choice. And it's always it's always the consequences of those choices that we make is something that we need to be mindful of as well. So the consequences of my choice to down tools on my business was I get to start again. I get to reframe how I do business. I get to look at all the bits that were successful, and I get to play in my business in a way that feels good. Because I don't know about you guys, if you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner, often we go and create something that we don't like. We sometimes we just go and create something that we are we create another prison. Like I certainly had. I'd gotten to this point where I'd created this business that just didn't serve me anymore. It wasn't supportive. It wasn't, whilst it was generating income, I was burning out. So understanding that sometimes these things, these lessons, these situations in life are sent to help us to reframe things. They are the shove that we need. So, the consequence of my actions to dropping things has actually been creating this podcast. It has been about working with clients that I can support and serve from a place of integrity and in a way that feels good to both of us. Because at the end of the day, the reason why I do business in the way that I do is because I want to live life on my own terms. And it's funny because it took me having a conversation with my mentor and friend, Nicola, yesterday to remind me that I'm here for the big vision. I'm here to help people get to their own conclusions without me having to be the person that does it for them all the time. And that is a real shift in kind of how I show up. It's an opportunity to show that actually there is no shame in really owning your gifts and sharing those gifts as well. So I'm glad that you have listened this far. I really hope you tune in, like, follow, subscribe for this next season. We have, as I said before, we have some amazing guests who are going to be sharing some amazing insights. There does appear to be a little bit of a theme around the guests that I'm attracting. They are often either neurodiverse or they have really interesting stories to share. So I really hope that you enjoy them and you are learning or enjoying what we're sharing on the Shameless Stories podcast. Thank you again for listening. If you're listening when this goes out, I will be in person at the Mind Body Spirit Festival in Birmingham with Shameless Stories and the House of Wisdom. So please do come along and say hello, and look forward to chatting with you again in the future. Thanks again for listening, and any comments, questions, any feedback, please let me know.